Yeah, well, I think who Mike is in the pilot when he first is introduced to Ryan and is, gushing and kind of like can't keep himself together to where he ends up is a huge arc and a huge journey. And I think the real turning point for me was when Mike got kidnapped and had to fight his way, like the Fight Club episode, that's what I call it. That was the moment where I was like, oh, this is getting good. This is where we can flip him a little bit and start to have, what I thought was interesting is that, I imagined that this might have been the journey that Ryan took. There's a mirror, there's a parallel to what Ryan went through in the first case and who that made him, how that wore him down and made him who he is. And it was interesting to sort of see Mike start to go down that path. And I think by the end of the season, he's pretty far down it. I mean, going into the second season, the repercussions of Mike and Ryan kidnapping, torturing, and murdering somebody will not just be thrown away. I mean, there'll be repercussions. Mike is significantly changed from this season and will continue to be. It's not, we're clean, let's move on to the second season. So that's exciting for me to see how far Mike will fall. And whether Kevin decides to make him fall all the way and he's got to pull himself up, or if he pumps the brakes and starts to get his life back together. Either way, it'll be interesting to play. So I'm just excited to explore the possibilities of where these guys can go. And also, there's something interesting about coming back a year later because, in a certain extent, they'll have pulled themselves together. So when they get thrown back into potentially the fire, how are they going to react? Like, is it going to be devastating to have to go back to that place of darkness all the time? So it's going to be interesting to see, what happens. I never doubted Mike because I was never told that I should. So I thought, there's always a possibility. After the pilot, when we discovered that Emma wasn't the babysitter and the gay neighbors weren't, I was like, there's always the possibility that we aren't who we say we are. But I was never told that by anybody, so I thought I'm playing it straight up because that's the only way to make it real. I'm not going to start injecting these potential things because I was never told to do that. So I never doubted Mike. I always knew Mike was a good guy. What's crazy is even after the Fight Club, people were saying, yeah, but they would like, and that's when I honestly, when I knew that the show was popular, when people started theorizing about who was good, who was bad, because that meant that when the episodes were over, people turned off their TVs and had discussions with their friends and created backstories for these characters that we didn't create, we didn't give them. And so, in that sense, it's like a book. Like, people's imaginations are running wild. They're creating backstories. They're creating possibilities. And I thought, so people are thinking about this show and talking about it after they turn it off. And I thought that's a good sign for us. So, it was exciting that happened. The scene to me that was important to get right, I guess the whole sequence that was hard and difficult was when Agent Parker had been kidnapped and Ryan and I were chasing, and the aftermath of that. It was a difficult scene because it had to be emotional. And I was toying with how angry Mike would be. And I thought he would be furious. I thought he would be kicking and stomping and like fighting to go with Ryan. Like, I was like, Mike puts up a fight, but I was like, there's no way that Mike would let Ryan leave without him. There's a body on the ground. He's kidnapped. He's going to, I always thought Mike knows that he's probably going to jail or something really awful is going to happen because they've killed this guy. And even though Mike didn't pull the trigger, he was there with them. He beat him with a pipe, And I thought there was no way that Mike would back off. And Marcos Ciego directed that episode, and he said, we can't go too far with this. I don't think that's who Mike is. I want to play him being a little more delicate and a little more fragile about this, as opposed to just ready to go kill Joe Carroll himself. So that was a difficult scene because I had such a specific idea and Marcos had a different idea, and we sort of like changed. I had to change my gauge of what I thought was the right thing to do. But that's what happens when you work with a great director. It's, as an actor, you bring in your ideas, and sometimes the overall storytellers have to sort of like show you where you need to be, because I'm just thinking the specific scene in the moment, and he's like, let's pump the brakes and see what it's like. And we did shoot two different versions, like different degrees, and ultimately the way that Marcos wanted to play it is what made the show, and I think it's made the episode that aired, and I think that was the way to do it. Sometimes as an actor you just don't know until you see it. Yeah, I finished about a month ago. It's going to be huge. I walked onto sets on those sound stages that were 10 times bigger than anything we've seen on the other X-Men films. The scope is huge. Obviously, everyone knows about all the characters that are coming back, but it's going to be incredible. Working with Brian again, you know, it's amazing. So I obviously can't say too much, but yeah, honestly, it's going to be great. I'm super excited, and it's going to be a lot of fun, you know. It's like a reunion plus other actors, and it's awesome. It's really cool. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Bye, guys. Thanks.